Okay. Hi, everybody. You are live on Shally's Alley. And for those of you that I love that, that's awesome. Wait, do that again. Awesome. If your surroundings seem unfamiliar, that's because they are unfamiliar to me as well. I am in a hotel in Myrtle Beach because this weekend is my son's black belt karate camp, and he's off on the beach teaching karate. And I got this swank, nice little room to hang out with my buddy James Ellis. So our guest today is none other than James Ellis. He is probably, I'm just going to come out and say it, the most prolific creator of material around brand, particularly
Loudmouth,
employment
loudmouth, loudmouth.
brand. That's right. Yes, very loud. Chief brand builder for Employer Brand Labs. And given that the word brand is in both your job title and the name of your company, I'm assuming it might have something to do with brand building.
Just a wee bit, just a wee bit.
Yeah, so we have had three people on the show recently with brand
Yeah.
experience. And I don't know if you had a chance to catch those episodes, but we got into some pretty cool conversations in the deep weeds about branding in TA. And I wanted to take things in a bit of a little deeper dive in some areas to kind of, set things up. So, folks, I don't know who invented this, but this basically is the Alton Brown of employer brand. I don't know where that came from, but let's just say, so when it comes to cooking up some good branding, and maybe having some good brandy too,
Let's
who
hope.
is he? Well, he's been an employer brand practitioner for quite some time, worked with a bunch of different startups and Fortune 100 companies, wrote three books. So we have that in common. I wrote three
Five,
books. You wrote three
five,
books.
five. I'm at
You wrote
five.
what? What?
Yes. What? I even have a
What are
copy
you
to
just
like
like?
point at you. It's painful.
What do
It's
you have
painful.
like?
No, there's
Just like
something
a
wrong with me. The doctors have been alerted. We're like, you got to stop him writing. It's gonna kill him, but he just
It's a
keeps writing. So I don't know.
disease. It's
It
a
really is.
compulsion. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
definitely. Um, so I think the last time we met might have been at Wreckfest. I don't know if that was
Mm,
the most recent
sounds
or
right.
not, but yeah. So he's a pragmatic. What is pragmatic? Tough
I
word.
say coin the word.
Practitioner.
Lean in.
Yeah.
Coin the word. Own it. It's
When
yours now. Whatever that means.
pragmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not hyped. I mean, just very, very pragmatic. And, I like that. I appreciate that sort of like direct view of things because there's no point anymore in dressing things up. That's kind of,
Yeah.
gone are the days. Um, and
Oh,
I
oh,
think
you
if
wish.
I'm,
You wish. Oh
yeah,
my
I
God,
wish.
my industry is rife with just make it pretty and turn the volume up. Yay, we're good enough. Hey, can
Wow.
we get some more awards on that? Hey, can we say we're a great place to work? Hey, can we say we got a great culture another time?
Add
My
another
world,
logo. Right.
oh my God, it's just
Right.
our world is so filled with make it look pretty. So I wish it was down. That was the end of, that was the old days. It's still, that's a change still
But you know
happening.
what though, bro? You're the king of become choosable, not make it
All right,
pretty, right?
put my crown on.
So
Put my crown on. I
like
am the
there's
king. There we
yeah,
go.
I see it. It's sparkly and it's very shiny. I mean, before I even launch into my questions, let's drop that on the audience.
Yeah.
What the hell is become choosable?
Yeah. So look, every time I say the word employer branding, in any room I'm in, 80% of the audience goes, what the hell's that? 15% of the audience
Right,
goes,
right.
that's a bunch of garbage. I read in Harvard Business Review, I read this place, that's
Branding,
all a bunch of
stranding,
hooey.
right?
Yeah, it's just a way to pull money out of consultants can pull money out of my companies, blah, blah. And 5% go, finally. And I know that the term is complicated and it's messy and it's rife with let's spend a whole lot of money on a deck that no one ever looks at or uses or is valuable. Let's pile in a bunch of consultants. There's a whole lot of stigma around it. So the book Becoming Choosable is this idea of, in the end, you do not want to be attractive. You want to be choosable. You don't want a million people to want to work with you. You want the two people who you want to hire to be in love with you. You want them to choose. And I don't know why I'm getting balloons. That's my side. Whatever. It's just really enjoying my tone of voice. The balloons just happened. But you really just want the handful of people you want to hire to love you, to really get what you're all about, to understand what you offer that others don't. So they're not just defaulting. They're not just going, okay, I'll pick the one with the higher salary. They're saying, I know what I want. I know that I can get it here. And so I'm choosing you. And I think the game of choosing is this piece of recruiting that we don't talk about much. We don't really think about. We just go, if I just put my job out everywhere and a bunch of people apply, if I make the haystack big enough, there's certainly to be a needle there somewhere. And I just don't think that's how things work anymore. And you've frozen, so I hope you're still there. Oh boy. Technology, my friends. I can't tell if he's gone or if I'm gone. My thing still says live. So welcome to James's podcast. Thanks, Shally, for setting me up here. So I'm just going to talk for a while to maybe still Shally shows up. So the thing about choosability and becoming choosable and not about being employer brand, because the book I wrote is all about choosable and not, I don't even say the phrase employer brand. Hey, Shally's back. He gets to reclaim his podcast again. You good to go? No, we're not quite there yet. He's on his phone. He's got that Blair Witch situation going on now. I'm gonna go stand in the corner backwards and freak him out. That's what's gonna happen. The handful of people who are listening to this live are laughing their ass off. This is great. Anyway, becoming choosable and not saying employer brand. The whole book is about choosability. I never say the word employer brand because ultimately, if we think about how do we make our jobs most choosable by the people we want, recruiting changes, employer brand changes. We stop kind of spamming everybody. We stop trying to build pipelines of people and fill our ATSs with people we never want to hire in a million years. We focus on, if I have 2 jobs, how do I get 10 people to fall in love with them? Because among those 10, 2 of them are be perfect. My hiring manager is going to love them. I mean, if you think about the best hires your company has ever made, the game changers, the really important people, the really business growing people, they didn't show up through a job board. They didn't apply with everybody else. They were people who got what you were about, who knew how they could add value, who knew how they could help, and they chose you. And it's until they choose you that you can really engage with them and give them something valuable that they actually want. So that's why I think of it as choosability. We want them to make an informed choice as to why they choose us, and not because we offer the most salary, because that's not a game you want to win, but because they get what we offer. And so it becomes a game of, what do we offer? What's the value on offer? How do we show it off? How do we make it clear? How do we make it credible? There's an interesting word. And then if we become more credible, if we become more clear, we become more choosable. So Shally's popping in and out of here. And I don't know how much I can vamp. I mean, that's not true. I can vamp for hours. Literally, my first podcast was 200 and some episodes of me in my dining room talking to myself 20 to 40 minutes at a time. So monologuing is kind of my superpower. So if you're still watching, I know. Right? What are you doing with your life? What choices have you made that led you here? But anyway, I'm just going to chat a bit more. One of the things I think is interesting about choosability, and it's a big chapter of my book, is the concept of value. And that's a word that we don't hear about or talk about or engage with very much anymore. Because we think about, we have this job, it's got a salary associated with it. We put it out in the world, and the people who want that salary apply. But the truth is, a job is a whole lot more than a salary. Right? Just think about work from home for a second. Shally, are we here? We good? Are you live? You a real person? Can you hear me? Shally, can you hear me?
We're here.
No, Shally can't
Yeah,
hear me, which is why
I think so.
Hey, we're here.
I can hear you.
Okay. That's great. So I've been vamping because we are on my thing says we're still live. So I've been vamping.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So let me finish my thought and I'll kick it back to you because I'm talking about the concept of value. So thinking about a job, when you're choosing a job, you think of it as more than just a salary. I mean, we should, because it is, what's the culture like? What's our manager or boss like? What are we working for? Working towards? How are we spending our time? What is the support we get? What is the, I'm still here. I'm still chatting, doing my thing. I think you're the one, who keeps coming in and out. I'm terrified that it's just going to be this weird episode of me talking and you appearing ghost-like. Oh man, you're still frozen. Okay, so let me finish my thought, and that will give Shally enough time to kind of kick the router or whatever it is he gets to do in the hotel. Oh God, this is terrifying.
That is true.
I'm kidding. Yeah. So the idea is that you're offering value. That is what you're really offering. And so you think of the job not as the salary, but as all the value. It could be the title. It could be the clients that person's going to work with. The truth is, we don't do a good job presenting that value. We just say, it's a great culture. It's a great place to work. We're a lot of fun. There's good benefit. We have world-class benefits. I hate that phrase, but we use it. We have all this stuff and we assume people believe us. Well, they don't. When we say that we offer world-class benefits, no one knows what that means. No one knows, what does that look like? Does that mean I'm going to pay a lot for my insurance or a little? Does that mean I'm going to have to hassle somebody to get my drugs paid for? Or what is all that stuff? What does world-class benefits means? Or competitive salary? What does any of that mean? And so candidates are skeptical. They know that it's a bunch of hooey. They know to ignore all of it because we're not doing a good job proving it. So if we say we're innovative or we say we're collaborative, show us what you mean, because those words are nice, but they don't say anything real. Are we innovative, like everybody gets a laptop and a really expensive cloud account and lots of tokens to kind of play with? Or do you mean innovative like, hey, we don't do annual reviews, we do it on a regular basis? Like, what do you mean by innovative? What do you mean by collaborative? What do you mean by any of the stuff you say? Because we don't do a good job proving it. But when you prove the things you offer and people start to believe, oh, I know what that means. I know what innovation here means. I know what it looks like. And I now have a sense of what that might be, how that might be valuable to me, how I might value that. And that gets added to the salary once they believe it and find it credible. And that's what they're really choosing on. So work from home is a good way of looking at this because it's very, very simple. It's very simple. Some of you would happily take a job, the same salary, but working from home where you don't now. To you, working from home is valuable. In fact, you might even say, I'll take a small pay cut to work from home because it's worth $5,000 a year or $10,000 a year. That's really clear value because when you say work from home, I know what that means and you know what that means. So you know what value to associate it. So at the same time, some people would say working from home, that's not good for me because I like to be in the office. I like to be visible to leadership. I like to show my work. Working from home doesn't serve me. I don't find that valuable. And so therefore saying, hey, work here, you can work from home, I don't find that valuable. I don't add any value to the salary. So the thing about value is we need to define it and prove it so that people can find it valuable. But then it's only going to be valuable to certain people. Value is relative. What you value and what I value are different things, and that's great. That means the job on offer may be perfect for you, and I might go, not in a million years. You'd have to double the salary and give me 2 title bumps before I even think about it. But for you, you may be like, yes, finally, that's exactly what I want, and vice versa. And recruiters generally say, because they're living in HR world and because they're overworked as hell and they're spinning more plates than is in my cupboard. They're so tired. They're so fried. All they can do is run a process. And that process is do the intake, write the job, post the job, fill the ATS, filter the ATS applicants, figure the 5 I can hand to the hiring manager, go to the next. It's an assembly line kind of model. If you want to think of it as I Love Lucy stuffing the chocolates into her mouth, it's kind of like that, right? It's that level of just overwork. But if you start to define the value this job has on offer, you're going to find that you attract more of the candidates you really, really want. Shally has lost hair in the last 20 minutes trying to log on. And the nice thing is he didn't have his headphones on when I said that, so he did not hear that joke. But that's okay, because he has a ways to go when it comes to competing with me for hair loss. Ah, dang.
I'm on my way.
How you doing? How are we doing?
I'm on my way. Can you hear me now or not?
So where are we living?
Not really.
I can hear you just fine. No, I hear you just fine.
Okay. I had to restart the router. You called it.
I told you.
Restart the router.
I knew it. It's always the way. Always the way.
Go kick the router.
All right. Well, I talked a bit about.
Anyway, I don't know if my connection is stable or not, but
we're gonna go.
Okay,
for
good.
It.
All right.
If we have to rebook this, we'll rebook it. But I think we're ready to go.
I'm happy to rebook, but I think I finally got this thing dialed in, and I did lose a lot of hair in the last 5 minutes.
I believe it.
Honestly, I think I know you lost count of how many episodes you've done. I did too, but it's probably over 350. And honestly, I've never had this happen, so this is the first for me.
I'm sorry,
and I'm glad you're such a good sport about it.
Oh,
Oh
please.
my God.
I have recorded long podcast episodes where I forgot to hit record. We have all had the
Oh, that's a
gremlins in our
good
systems.
one. I need to do
Yeah,
that. I need to do
we've all
that.
had it happen. Yeah, got to get it out of your system. You got to have it happen at least once.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, anyway, so did you finish your rant?
Yeah, we're good to go. Anywhere you want to take it, let's
Good
take
to
it.
go? Anywhere I want to take it. All right. Well, one of the things that
Anywhere.
I wanted to ask about that I was really curious. You've built brand for megacorps and small startups. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess what's the difference? Is it and one of the things, by the way, just to clarify to the audience, one of the things that the Alton Brown of employment branding talks a lot about on his website is that he enjoys the challenges and works best with the challenges where it's a brand name that is not widely recognized. So just to be clear, I feel like it's easier to if you're Pizza Hut or
Yes.
Motorola or Microsoft, it's easier to port your brand name to an employer brand, even
Yeah.
though there's a big distinction between an employment brand and a product brand, but it's easier.
100%.
Where it's the most challenging is when you don't really have a product brand, which can come from being a startup or being small, or a large company that is the
A B2B.
infrastructure for things like example might be US Foods. They're US Foods is the company behind most restaurants. They deliver the food to the restaurants, but nobody who goes to a fine dining restaurant associates Bob's Steakhouse with US Foods. However, that is where they get their food. So branding for a no-name brand is really the most challenging, I think. But what I want to dig into is size. Does size
Mm-hmm.
matter? If
Yeah.
you're a 10,000 employee company that has no brand name or 125 employee company, what's the difference in brand?
Yeah. So you're 100%
Talent
right. There's a
brand,
thing. Yeah. There's a thing called a consumer brand halo. So Target is a brand I buy a lot from on a fairly regular basis, less so lately
right?
for particular reasons we don't have to get into. That fact that I would generally go to the store and I'm happy with what I get in the store means I generally like the brand, which means I generally am more inclined to apply there. Do I know anything about what it's like to work there? If I didn't, it wouldn't matter. That halo kind of seeps in and it impacts my thinking. At the same time, that goes both ways. If you're Wells Fargo and you've been going through some stuff and you've
Mhm.
been in the news and people have a negative association, it means it's harder because that negative association carries over to the talent brand, the employer brand, whatever you want to call it. Smaller companies have a clean sheet of paper, but they have a very small resource size. So it's kind of okay though.
You
If
have
you
to
are a
defeat that.
smaller mid-sized company, yeah, but if you're a smaller mid-sized company, it's not like you need to hire. Look, Amazon has to hire 150,000 people every year. Target has to hire tens of thousands of seasonal people every single year. Their need for talent is massive. If you're a 300-person company, you need to hire 10 people, 20 people, 30 people. You don't need to think at Target levels. Instead, what you can say is, look, we can tell a more authentic, a more clear, a more understandable, a more plausible story about who we are and what we're trying to do. Because ultimately, it's very important to remember this, candidates only care about three things. What are we doing? How do we do it? What do I get when we do it? That is the only thing candidates care about. And as a smaller company, you're going to find it a whole lot easier to answer those questions in a way that is meaningful and valuable. When
Those things are
Amazon
clear.
says, what do we do and how do we do it? What do we get? Yeah, when Amazon says that stuff, it's, well, are we talking about a warehouse worker? Are we talking about somebody, a developer in Seattle? Are we talking about a manager out in the boot? Like, what are we talking about? So what are we doing is complicated. How do we do it? Well, if you're in the warehouse, you're working a certain way. If you're a Seattle headquarters, you're a certain way. If you're out in one of the regional offices, it's a different way. It's really hard to tell that story. If you are a smaller company, and it doesn't have to be just because you're in one spot, but because you are more focused on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, what the culture is like, how you're rewarded, what people get promoted for and fired for, all that stuff gets really, really focused when you're in a mid-sized company, which means you can tell an interesting story. So here's an example. So there's a company called Buffer, which if you're into social media, you remember Buffer because they were one of the very first companies that allowed you to do scheduling of social media posts. Now it seems to be, native
Oh,
everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, right? There was a time we all
Right.
lived on Buffer and Hootsuite and all those other companies, and Buffer was great. And Buffer is a mid-sized company. They're not that big. And they had the opportunity to say, we looked around, and I've never worked for them, so I don't know their kind of internal process here, but I looked, they looked around and they said, what makes us different? What are we offering people? When people say, what do we do and what do we want? What do we get for we do it? What are we offering people? And they said, well, aside from a salary and aside from growth, what we're really offering is transparency. You get to talk to the CEO whenever you want. Everybody's very open. It's an open door situation. We want people to interact and collaborate. We love transparency. And that is a really nice idea. Now, the really fun part is because they're not Target or Amazon or any massive company, they could make the decision to say, how do we prove that we're very transparent? And what they did is very simple. And it took a lot of guts because I can't imagine any other companies taking this move, but they said, we're transparent. What does that mean? Well, on our career site, we're going to list every employee's salary. How's that for transparent, my friends? And to which you go, it's a simple, not easy, but simple answer, right? What do you mean by transparent? This is how transparent we are. A big company would never have the guts. That legal would never allow that stuff. HR would never allow that stuff to get out. The limitations, the fear of, what would people say? That hinders and squanders your opportunity to tell an interesting story that mid-sized companies can absolutely tell. And to me, that's why they're more interesting and have the big opportunity to tell a story that somebody somewhere on the internet is going to say, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. That's exactly where I want to be. Apply. And they didn't have to spend a dime to do it. They didn't have to buy a bunch of ads. They didn't have to post in every job board. They could simply say, this is who we are. This is what we offer in such a clear, credible way that people went, I got it. I want that, or I don't.
Wow. That is very, very transparent and very clear.
It proves it. It's beyond a shadow of a doubt.
It proves it? Yeah. How does an organization arrive at a clarity like that? Because clarity is not really. Clarity is hard. It's hard to achieve. Clarity of mission. Clarity of. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and it gets muddled when you bring in what I might think of as classic marketing thinking, because classic marketing is all about how do I get more? I want more eyeballs. I want more shelf space. I want more impressions. I want more leads. I want more sales, more. They worship at the church of more, as is their job.
And they can't measure more because they don't know how much more is.
Yeah, exactly. In recruiting,
how much more? I don't know.
One role you can only. Yeah, but in the recruiting, you only have one person you can put in that role. So you don't want more applicants. More applicants actually just makes your life harder. You want better applicants. And so that is what clarity is all about. What is the thing that we offer that makes the one perfect person say, finally, I've been waiting my whole professional life for you. This is what I've been wanting so long. For so long, we've made it so easy to apply and get the super easy apply button. All of our ATSs are filled to bursting with applicants we do not want. We will never hire, that we will never think of as valid candidates.
Right.
And it's not helping us. I don't know a single recruiter. Yeah, I don't know a single recruiter who goes, oh yeah, I got so many applicants, I want more. No, you it's like the monkey's paw. We ask for more applicants, like, oh, I'll show you more applicants, and then they just by the bucket load. And
you want more applicants.
You got the monkey's paw curse. Yeah, exactly. So the truth is, we have deviated. The pendulum has swung way too far that side. We got to say, look, in an AI world, in a tech world in which we live in, ultimately, the model of posting our job everywhere, spamming the living bejesus out of everything that moves, apply. We're hiring, join us, doesn't work. We have to start taking a lot more thinking from executive headhunters, from targeted searching, from, I don't know, maybe a sourcer. Shally, do you know any sourcers we could talk to?
No, never heard of that. Never heard of that.
I know. This is the stuff. Look, recruiting is going to change and is changing slowly, but then quickly. The model of spamming people is dead. It just doesn't know it yet. I don't have to tell you what Indeed has been doing lately. I don't have to tell you all the news that's going on. The model of spamming is dying, and it's the companies and the recruiters who say, how do we attract the perfect person, not the most people? Those are the ones who are going to thrive, because they are, and this is where the real conversation happens. It's not about the candidate and putting a butt in a seat. It's about finding someone who is going to grow the company. Because Shally, I know you know this, and I know a lot of your listeners know this, and a lot of watchers know this, but our jobs in recruiting is not to fill the seat. Our job is to grow the company. And we do that by putting the best possible person in the seat, the person who creates the most value. And if we think of it in spamming terms, if we think of it in volume terms, you don't make that happen. But if you think of it as an executive recruiter, as a sourcer, as a targeted recruiter, you can truly make amazing things happen and help grow your company by putting amazing people in that role.
So basically what I'm hearing is, and correct me if I'm off track here, the filter is moving.
Yeah.
The filter is moving closer to the entry point. Like, so, and the vision is clear in my head, as often is the case. I'm not, right. So it used to be people applied. There was no filter. Anyone can apply. Everyone should apply.
Yes.
And then we review the resume, and that's filter number one. And then we move them forward, and there's a screen or a test,
Shally,
an assessment, whatever.
It is funnel thinking, right? Everything has been about the sales funnel in recruiting, and so we fill it.
Filter.
Fill it at the top. Filter should go down. Yes.
Right, and multiple filters. So what I'm hearing is the filters are moving closer to the top of the funnel, to the point where the top of the funnel is a filter.
Yeah.
You want
the person,
fewer applies.
You want the person. Here is a perfect candidate. One, they know what the company does and how they do it, right? They get a sense of the culture, they get a sense of the expectation. Two, they know what the job is and know not only how they can do the job, but how they can add value to that role. Three, they are ready to go. They are ready to engage in a conversation of helping their own career and helping the company grow. That is the only candidate you want. It doesn't matter where they went to college. It doesn't matter if their resume is 1 page or 2. It doesn't matter any other stuff that we argue and finagle about. It's all crap. Do they get what we do and how we do it? Can they add value to this company? Are they ready to add value to this company? And if you start to apply those filters, if you make that more clear, you're going to get a dozen instead of hundreds of people who apply. And that's where you're going to win. Because once you start to talk in those terms, you leave behind the world of 4 trillion bullets in a job post, including must be have excellent written and oral skills. Now, I don't know how your oral skills are, but I know my oral skills are pretty okay. But assuming, right, that is where things get really weird. Like, we add all these bullets and they say nothing. But if we said, this is a rule in which you are going to change X and Y and Z, and you're going to spend your time doing A and B and C because we're connecting it to this piece of growth. We don't know how to solve the problem. We want people who are ready to help us solve this problem.
That's your job. To come in and solve that with us.
But no,
with us for it. We're going to pay you to solve this problem.
But we've HR.
But you better be prepared to work here, and this is what we are like. This is what we're like.
But we've HRized these jobs such that they look like and sound like cookie cutters, which means anybody goes, I can fit that. Like, if I'm on Reddit, which I sadly am because I'm that guy, and I look at recruiting hell, everybody goes, I'm qualified. Why am I not getting a phone call? And you're like, because you are one of hundreds of qualified people. The job is not to be qualified. The job is to show how you add value. But that means recruiters have to give that door an opening, right? You have to say, this is how you can add value. So if you could describe how you'd add value to this, we would be crazy not to talk to you. But instead we say, can you speak this language? Can you code in that language? Do you have 6 years experience in this? Have you
done all these things that we don't really know if you're going to need to do again?
Exactly. Yeah. And so we need to un-HRize and really say, what is the story of, again, what are we doing? How do we do it? What are you going to get when you do it?
Yeah. I want to flip the conversation a little bit towards automation, in particular AI, because it's something that I think we have a coincidentally, not through having arranged it before, a very aligned vision for what we call AI these days, the LLMs, the Chat GPTs and text generators, which is really, it's not AI, but I don't want to beat that horse. The point is, everybody calls it AI and everybody talks about it as AI. And so that's what I want to talk about is where is the pitfall there? And what I want to say about this is both you and I are subscribers to a zero AI that does the job is way better than a $40,000 platform that doesn't. And another thing that I believe we're very aligned on is AI tends to be the great blendizer,
It can be. It
um,
can be.
the great like vanillaizer of because basically if you deconstruct what they do, they are processing a large amounts of text, and when they see patterns, the stronger the pattern, the more credibility they assign to that pattern. And so things that are repeated
Hmm.
at a high volume, which tend to be popular ideas, which also tend to be what is the best selling flavor of ice cream in the
Yep.
world? Vanilla. But why is it vanilla? Is it vanilla because everybody likes vanilla? No, it's vanilla because a lot of people do things with vanilla. So according to AI, the best flavor is vanilla,
Hmm.
but it's not because it's the flavor everybody likes. It's because it's the flavor most people can do more things with.
And
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 it just
who
turns
yeah,
out
who
to
loves
be
vanilla? Like who goes, oh, very few people. But and look, here's the deal. And I love ice cream. Like
but it's the best selling right.
it is, but because it's safe. Because in the end, if I'm buying ice cream for 10 people, I know vanilla will work. But if I said what I need to do is sell, if I loved rum raisin, I'm in a rare group of people. But people who love rum raisin freaking love it. I think it's disgusting. But people who love it, and that's the thing we need to, and that is, you're
Right.
1,000% right. AI is about what can I give you that is going to
Vanilla.
satisfy enough to move to the next thing, and
Right.
it's fine. But there are lots of ways and lots of tricks and hacks to get AI to go, oh, I need to think
To get
beyond.
AI to do
Yeah.
that. Right.
Yeah.
So AI generated EB content can fail radically by providing you with
Hmm.
vanilla packaged in a rum raisin
Yes.
package, but it's still vanilla.
Hmm.
Now, I like to put raspberry balsamic vinegar
Ooh.
on my vanilla ice cream. And if you've never tried that, you have to just take a spoon and drop a little bit on just to try it once. It's amazing. The contrast in the texture and the flavor and the acidity and everything, it just elevates both of them.
Yeah.
But you don't want to sell a packaged balsamic raspberry vanilla flavored ice cream
Yeah.
because it's going to blend the balsamic vinegar into the ice cream. And the idea is you put a little bit on at a time and have a scoop, right? So my point is, if I went to ChatGPT and I said, what flavor of ice cream should I get? It's going to say vanilla. It's not going to suggest, you know what you should do with vanilla? Put a little bit of balsamic vinegar on it, because that's just not going to comply. Most people are going to be like, oh, what are you talking about? How do we take balsamic vinegar vanilla ice cream to employment branding with AI? What is the key or the trick to use these $0 AI tools in a way that actually generates real clarity, not packaged clarity that looks like clarity, but it's just the same vanilla?
Yeah, I'm going to give you 3 things. Apparently, this is the episode of 3. I just keep coming back to these 3 triplets. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Why not?
So the first one is you have to one, know what, you have to have taste. You have to know what good tastes like, what good looks like, what valid, useful content is. So that's one. The second is you have to feed the machine better context, and I'll talk about what that means in a second. And 3, you need to run whatever you come out with, you need to give it a voice. So let's talk about the first one first, and that is, if I said,
Okay.
go read my career site and tell me what my employer brand is, I'm going to get some pretty bland stuff because I've just said it's a nice place to work. I have to know that's not enough. And the truth is, a lot of employer branders don't know that that's not enough. It's still becoming a common way of saying, okay, what does depth mean? What does useful mean? What does a good employer brand look
But
like? And it
then
doesn't have to be an EVP, and it doesn't have to have pillars, and there's not like a particular structure. There's a lot of
structure,
ways an
right?
employer brand can be, yeah, but there's a lot of ways an employer brand can be. And so you have to be able to say,
But then
do I understand this? Go ahead, go ahead.
they go to then they send the chat GPT to Glassdoor and Indeed and say detect my employer brand from that, and what they're reading is the equivalent of Yelp reviews of a restaurant. I mean,
I would, yeah, and that's
that's
why I would never do that. So when I
but
build
that
an employer brand,
happens.
so let's skip to step number 2. So let's assume you understand what good brand looks like and what you have a level of taste. Let's
You
call
have
it
to,
that.
yeah, you can
So
appreciate raspberry
yes,
balsamic vinegar on ice cream, right?
yes, exactly. So the second thing is you have to give it context, which means you have to feed the beast to get it. Because you're 100% right. If you don't feed the beast, if you don't give context, it's going to read everything as if it's equally valuable. And suddenly your company that makes AI chips is using information from companies that sell hamburgers and companies that sell
Potato
customized
chips,
services. They're
because they're
all
still
bringing that stuff
chips.
together. Yeah, because they're bringing all this stuff together. Okay, yeah, it's like this. You need to give it good information. Now, that can be something as simple as scraping your own engagement surveys, the tech surveys. It could be having focus groups and scraping the transcripts of that, or what are the outcomes of that. It could be asynchronous interviews. It could be, there's all sorts of content. My favorite is, if your company is semi-remote, go scrape your Slack channels and team channels. Go get what
Mhm.
your people are actually saying, how they're working, how they talk to each other, how they engage, how they solve
Yeah,
problems, because that is the real gold of what your company is. Remember,
that
what
is
do you do?
culture.
How do you do it? What do you get it for it? That's the real how do
Mhm.
you do it, right? The CEO is going to set the vision of this is the business and this is what we're trying to build. That's the what are we going to do? The how do we do it is how people interact. It's, is my boss a jerk? Do we all infight? Are we very collaborative? Do people want to help me? Do I want to, how do problems get solved? And so much raw material is literally sitting in company computers, but we don't think to tap that. So if you can scrape that content, and for me, I think of it in terms of competition, because everything is a zero sum game. If you hire somebody, I can't hire that person. So everybody has to be playing the game of who are the competitors in this space. So if
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah.
if I'm in a biotech, and I look at all 20 other biotech companies in my area, I'm going to see a lot of companies that say, hey, you should join our company. We're really innovative and we save lives. To which I would say, me too. But then again, that's what every biotech is. That's not helping me differentiate what I'm offering. If every company offers, we innovate and we save
We
lives,
save lives, right?
saying it doesn't do any good. So you got to go a little deeper. You got to understand that. However, you can provide the context of, hey, this is what 20 other companies in my market say. Help me differentiate from them. So there's a lot of context you can give the AI to say, help me understand how a candidate might look at that. You can even go a step farther, and this is a little nerdy, if you'll forgive me. You could even generate a synthetic panel of your perfect hire. So let's say you're hiring a sales manager, and you
Okay.
know that what you offer at your company is autonomy and openness and the willingness to experiment. And so you build synthetic panels of 100 fake sales managers who are looking for autonomy and ability to collaborate and to cross the aisles. And you get 100 panels, and then you can say, take those panels and say, hey, LLM, how would I talk to this person? How would I describe this job to this person? Or how would I describe this company to this person so that they go, I want that? So suddenly you're narrowing the aperture. The AI isn't looking at everything, it's looking at
Okay.
just this
Okay.
thing. And it's
Okay.
able to
Yeah.
go, hey, and you're going to get really interesting things like subtle word choices and subtle arguments to make that if you were just trying to talk to any sales manager, you would never find. But it turns out, like I did this for ICU nurses. And I was specifically saying, hey, if I wanted to talk to ICU nurses who were looking for who were looking for what was it? Just flexibility. If I were to put myself in their shoes, I might say, I guess I should talk about work-life balance. That makes sense to me. That's what I think an ICU nurse looking for, flexibility might want. They want to know what's the work-life balance. It's not. If I generate a
Right.
panel and ask the panel, what do you really want? What they're going to say is, I want to know how far ahead the schedule gets set. I want to know how late we can adjust the schedule. I want to know who allows for shift changes. I want to know what is the day-to-day operations of how things move. Now, me, since I'm not an ICU nurse, I never would have thought of that. I never would have thought that's exactly what we should be talking about. But by generating a synthetic panel, I can say, tell me what those people would want that I would never know. And suddenly I can make choices in how I describe the job that's going to make that audience kind of just eat it up with a spoon. The third thing the tone of voice. So here's another one.
The voice. Yeah. Voice is
so important.
Voice is an ephemeris quality.
And it's not just, oh, how do I make the ChatGPT not give me a lot of M dashes? This is not that. That is so obvious. We all know to avoid that, as we can. But one of my clients literally used a synthetic panel to generate a bunch of job postings and a bunch of blog posts. And she showed it to me. And I was like, oh, I can see it. Headline, paragraph of equal size. Headline, paragraph of equal size. Like if you took 3 steps away, it would look like Lego blocks. I was like, that is so clearly AI driven. It doesn't have to have any, it doesn't have to have M dashes. You go, that's what it is. So I said, here's what I want to do. Since you're talking to software engineers, I went to ChatGPT and I said, name a bunch of influential software engineers who write a lot and define their tone of voice. And it gave me a list of 12 software engineers and their kind of tone of voice. And I said, hey, pick one of these people and have it rewrite that post in that tone of voice, right? It could be male, it could be female, it could be structural, it could be tactical, there's all sorts of different ways. And suddenly that content feels more human. It feels more. And in the same way that a lot of branders, I'm opening, I'm kind of sharing too much, but one of the fun tricks that branders often do is to say, to understand how people perceive a brand, which is abstract, they might ask someone, what is the celebrity you most associate with that brand? And you might say, oh, that's a Kim Kardashian brand, even though Kim Kardashian has nothing to do with it. But we all know, that is a brand about fashion. That's a brand about glamour. That's a brand about a certain kind of thing. Oh no, that is a Brad Pitt brand. Okay, it's still attractive, but at the same time, it's different. It's a little ruddier, it's a little muddier, or it's a McConaughey brand, right? It's a different feel, so you can associate. Same thing is for your tone of voice. Find someone who kind of embodies the tone of voice you want to put out in the world and filter your content through that tone of voice. And suddenly you're getting much better language, much better, and it feels far more emotional and far more human. Is it cheating? Yeah. But in the end, when we talk about authenticity, we're not talking about, I brutally sweated every word on this blog post. What it means is I want to convey a message to you. I'm going to give you the proof, and I'm trying to convey it in such a way that is most adoptable and understandable to you. And up to you, when I do it right, it's not me making the decision for you. I'm simply informing you so that you can decide how useful or valuable that is. So for me, those are the 3 big steps and tricks of using AI and LLMs. And that is, understand you have to have a level of taste. It's still on you to make your decisions. 2, you have to give it better context. And 3, you have to understand the tone of voice.
So, very good summary. Thank you for that. The voice consists of sentence patterns, word choices, temperature, turn of phrases, things like
structure,
level of formality.
If I say, hey,
structure, right?
Write this. Right. Yeah, if I say write this article like Michael Lewis, who wrote Liar's Poker and Moneyball and stuff, it's going to have it's going to start with a personal story. It's going to dive into how it connects to the larger idea. It's going to describe the larger idea. And then it's like classic. But if I said, no, write it like Brene Brown, whoa, whole different structure. It's going to start with the emotional connection she wants you to feel. And then it's going to go, and then it's not about, do I want to copy Brene, or it's not about, do I want to copy Michael? It's about, how do I leverage
part of your voice?
Yeah, but how do I leverage their expertise and how they present information and say, that is a model that makes the most sense for me. I can follow it that way. Super valuable. Whoops, still there? Did I lose you? Shally, can you hear me?
Hello?
Here's what. Yep, you good?
Can you hear me?
I can just pretend. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Shally?
Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, I sure can.
No?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right, I don't know what's going on here.
Okay. I'm going to use this and pretend that this is Shally and Shally's interviewing me. So James, what do you think about it? I think AI is great. Okay, that's great. Okay, we're doing that. I'm stopping now. At some point, Shally's going to come in. Shally, got me? You hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I can hear
You can hear
you.
me? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
The question I was going to ask is, what about the negative space? How do you use that?
Tell me what you mean by that before I jump into it.
So what are the like, in my opinion of the negative space, I would teach the AI when I'm talking about voice things that I never do. Like, for example, I don't like hyperbole, or I don't use
I
buzzwords
see.
unless I'm
Gotcha.
justifying them for some reason,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I
Effectively
don't end
defining.
with "What do you think?" Things like that.
Yeah.
So, what not to do? I guess, is there room for
Yeah.
that, or is that already covered because of what you talked
Oh
about?
no. No, there's absolutely room for that. I'm a big believer that, and this is, and Shally, by the way, this is you being a sorcerer and being so sorcery, you don't even realize that that's sorcerer thinking, because you have that in your head when you're looking at a Boolean script. Add in negative keywords. I want this, but not this. But most people don't think of that, but that's really great. I think you should add, the core strategy is what you're not going to do. It's very easy to try and solve every problem and try to, be attractive to every person. You have to be willing to say, look, in a perfect world, I don't want that. I want that. So what can I say that pushes this person away, but that's also equally going to draw this person in? So if I said, we're a wonderful, nice place to work, that doesn't do anything. But if I said, this is a place that's incredibly collaborative, we're very mission driven, to the point where we take extra time to make decisions to ensure that everyone is on board. Now, that's a fairly HR safe thing to say, but some of you went, ew, God, I would never want to work there. And some of
It
you went,
means if
I
you're
absolutely do.
impatient, yeah, if you're
Exactly.
impatient, this is
Yeah.
not a good place to
If you're a
be.
move fast, if you're a move fast and break things kind of person, this is not going to be a satisfying thing. So when
Also,
you
if you
say
expect a
stuff,
handbook with all the rules in it.
yeah. So if you say things that are more clear about what you want and what you expect and what you offer, you should embrace the idea that is absolutely going to push people away. Because the truth is, every strength has its own weakness built in. Here's a story about, I used to work at Roku, and all the time we would get these Glassdoor reviews by people saying, this place is chaotic, it's messy, no one knows what's going on, there's no rules, inmates are running the asylum. And it was my job to say, we offer maximum autonomy, which means we hired you to tell us what the rules were. And we're very sorry that you weren't happy here, but we wish you the most success wherever it is you're going to go next. Did I turn their 1-star flame war review into a 5-star? No. But what I did is I used their 1-star to prove the idea I want people to believe about my company. Because no matter what we talk about, and this is the thing that kills me about the awards, people say, oh, we're a great place to work, as if that means anything. To whom? For whom are you a great place to work? In what way are you a great place to work? Because until you get to that, you can't help me understand, oh, you're a great place to work because you're incredibly collaborative and you bring people together and you make decisions together. That is not the same as being a great place to work because you move fast and break things. Those are both two very good places to work for two very different people. So if you understand that you're supposed to be for a particular person and embrace that and explain that, you are naturally going to say things that push people away and push people into that negative keyword kind of space, right? If you said, this is a place where we're a family, you have already just assumed I am not going to apply for that job. It's very simple. That is a negative keyword that I'd be like, get me out of here. That's terrifying. But there are some people who go, oh yeah, I would like to learn more about that. So I think that happens naturally, but if you can embrace it and leverage it, absolutely.
And put it into the plan for
Yeah.
it if it's intentional, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you
So
don't
how
want to
do we
hire
use?
everybody. You have to be very clear on who you do want to hire.
Yeah, and to be fair, also, I mean, we're the best place to work if you're an engineer, but if you're a recruiter, we're the worst place to work.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's the kind of message. So, how do we
Salespeople in legal.
use?
Salespeople and legal, those people have nothing to do with each other. So how do you describe a place to work that's true for both of them? Well,
Right.
you have to be able to, you have to then translate this idea of what you're offering to those
What
different
that
audiences
means.
in their own
Yeah.
language. Yeah.
How do we use AI to measure the effectiveness of this?
Ooh, wow. Okay. This is a tough one because the hard part's in the question. How do we
Yeah.
measure of this? What is this? And I think there's a lot of people
When
who want to
you
try. Hold on.
establish, okay,
There's
yeah,
a
fair
whole lot of
enough.
people who want to say, how do we measure the employer brand? And the truth is, you cannot measure a brand. You simply
No, the
cannot measure a
outcome.
brand.
The outcome.
You can measure its impact, though. You can
Yeah, yeah.
measure how it influences people's perception of you, the value they perceive of you. And again, we get back to, and Shally, you missed this part about value. It's kind of where I talked to when you were kicking routers and stuff and yelling at people. I'm envisioning a whole crew of people who have just been fired because they couldn't get you on for the first 10 minutes. That's just, it's in my head. Do not break that. Do not ruin that visual for me.
That
I'm
happened.
loving it. But the truth is, what you offer is of value to some people, but not of value to others, right? If you offer work from home, some people are going to be
Yeah.
like, great, I would value that at
And some people are,
$10,000 a year. And some people
right.
be like, no, God, no, I need to be in the office because that's how I'm seen and that's how I get my promotion. So if you know what, not what the brand is, but the people who want it and how and why they value it, you can start to measure how that influences people's perception and how they change and how they choose to apply. So you can say, so in a perfect world, I would have a very simple graph. I would say, here is the quality of applicant you get from posting a job on, say, I don't know, and try not to roll your eyes at this, friends, ZipRecruiter, because ZipRecruiter spends a whole lot of money telling us how easy recruiting can be. Jerks. They are liars, but we all know that. We don't have to say that. But the truth is, if I was a hiring manager and I didn't have a recruiter on staff, I just posted on ZipRecruiter, that would be the
Right.
baseline quality I would expect. Now, because of what recruiting does, because of what employer branding is saying, because of how well it proves the thing it offers and what we get and how we do it, I'm getting better talent, better fits, better value than the baseline. And if you can measure that in some way, and every company is going to be different at this, that is the money. That is the power. That is how you are saying, I'm not putting a C+ candidate in the seat. I'm putting an A+ candidate in the seat. And by the way, if you can then associate that with the actual business value that person brings in, the thing they invented, the sales they brought in, whatever that is on your pocket too. You are bringing that value in just as much as the person who did it, because you didn't just go to ZipRecruiter and get the baseline C+ player. You went and figured out, what would an A+ player look like? What would they care about? What would they value? How do we offer that? How do we talk to them and how do we present that so they can hear it? That is where the impact of the employer brand is going to be. Because without an employer brand, recruiters are forced to just kind of go out and source people and find people. And they're out there saying, join us. And I got this great job opportunity. Or God help us all, I found your profile on LinkedIn and was very impressed by your experience. And I think you'd be perfect for this blah, 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 default language, default language. The employer brand says, don't say that. Talk about the kind of candidates, or I'm sorry, the kind of clients they'll have access to and how that will grow their career. Why? Because that is what we offer, and that is what a perfect hire will want. And that is where employer brand thinks. It says, don't talk to everybody the same. Find the person who wants this thing and describe it this way so they can want it even more. That is really, and Nathan is no fool here. Nathan knows what's going on. That is how you really use an employer brand, by figuring out, what do we say to that person in the moment of when they're making those choices.
Okay, so the answer to the question about how we use AI to measure this is actually very much go back to the traditional analysis of, first you have to define what you're going to measure. So define the metric, which may
Yes.
be easy, may be hard, but then you can give
Mm-hmm.
the data to AI and let AI figure out how to figure it out, which is actually really good at. Where you say, here's the data, the pattern we had, and the pattern we want.
Mm-hmm.
Are we there? What should we be looking for? And then you can use ChatGPT and an Excel spreadsheet to actually effectively do that. The trick is you have to figure out what that metric is,
That
which
is
is
the
not a
whole
formula.
game.
Yeah,
It's not the formula. And that is where taste comes in. It goes back to that first
yeah.
idea of, look,
Which
AI can
you
do
have
all,
defined.
yeah,
Yeah.
the AI can do all the heavy lifting, can do all the math that I, as a human being, could never dream of doing. But I
Right,
have
right.
to know the question to ask and what I want it to look at first.
But it isn't about, to use my analogy, it isn't about are we selling more balsamic vinegar? It's about um, are people more satisfied with the product? It doesn't matter if it's balsamic
Yeah.
vinegar or peach.
And there's a whole game that we haven't even discussed that we could get into of how do you present this idea of putting raspberry balsamic on ice cream to people who have never thought that that was even a possibility,
A
right?
possibility.
So
Right.
much about jobs is we assume everybody is rational and everybody knows what they want and everybody knows what's available. Think of the time, think of, Shally, I know you and I are not of dissimilar ages and dissimilar vintages. And we remember when Google started to come out with all these perks that at the time were radically revolutionary. The
I was
M&Ms, the free
there.
food,
Yeah.
the coffee, like that stuff was like, holy shnikes. I didn't know I
I
could
was there.
want that free food.
Yeah.
Holy, they changed the game by presenting options that people didn't know they could want. There was a time in which, hey, you could work from home. What? I can do that? Like, this is the thing. If you do your job really, really well and look at your company, and you have to look at it with clear eyes because very often you're too in the middle of it. You're not reading the pickle jar from inside the jar. It's really hard to do. You have to think clearly about what is the thing that we offer, and then how do you present it in such a way that people go, I didn't know I could want that. Right?
And
Think of
now
that.
I must have it.
And now I must have
Yeah.
it. And when you can do that, you completely change the rules of
But
recruiting because suddenly you're a monopoly. No one else is offering this thing. You're the only one offering it because you're the only one who thought to present it.
but so uh, let me challenge you with something.
I love it.
I'm a fish. Teach me air.
It is hard. It is very hard. That is 100% true. However, if I said, what if you could see a place where you I'm trying to think of how to describe here. Imagine a place where you were not constrained by the water and held back by the water, that you could move faster and quicker. Okay, that's interesting. Tell me more. Okay, imagine a space in which you are not blah, 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 blah. Like, you have to bring it back to to terms that matter to them. Like, if you
Hmm.
explain to me, you know how this thing is great? It's like having a great haircut. Guess what? I don't understand that frame of reference, my friends. That does not connect with me. But if you say, this thing is great, kind of like a new pair of headphones helps you hear the music differently, I'm all ears because I'm a headphone nerd. It is
Audiophile.
about bringing information to people in terms that they can understand and value, right? It's got to be, someone in the chat asked, how do we do this for advocacy? And the truth is, the answer is very simple. Don't talk about advocacy because advocacy sounds like, what does the company want? Because it is. You have to talk about advocacy in a way that says, this is why why an employee should want to do it. What's in it for them? What is the term and the reward that they understand? And
It's
that
a
is what,
bridge.
yeah. And look, the recruiting has gotten so systematized and assembly lineized that everything, and HR drives so much of it, whether consciously or unconsciously, that it's all about what the company wants. And it's the companies who understand, how do I talk about any of this in terms of what the perfect candidate wants? They're the ones who attract great hires, and they're the ones who win.
I don't remember where I learned this, but
Hmm.
somebody once gave me this example. Um, you trying to explain airplanes to Neanderthals, right?
Yeah. Like, they literally couldn't see it. Like, there have been stories about when Christopher Columbus came to the New World that the indigenous people didn't see it, but what they really did was they saw it, but they didn't understand what they were seeing. And so consequently, they went, it's just some weird rock,
They
right?
dismissed it,
It is
right?
hard.
Right.
It is hard.
So the way that this was explained, I'm trying to figure out where exactly I got this, but it just came into my head. The way this was explained, it's like making a bridge between, okay, so
The
you
known and
know what a
unknown.
wagon is. Yes, okay, you put things in a wagon and you carry things from one place to the other. Yes, okay. So an airplane is like a wagon that can go from one place to the other the same way a bird does.
Yes. Yeah. You have to
And then
bring
they're
it to the
like,
terms that they can understand.
okay, I get it. It's a really big wagon that can fly. Yeah, that's it. Right?
And hey, look,
Now you
let's
get
remember,
it. So,
when Google first started dropping all these perks, why did they do it? because they saw that their engineers were staying late to keep coding, but they kept calling the pizza company all the time. And they were getting all these, and the security was like, I can't handle all these food deliveries. And so they said, you know what we should do? We should just feed our people. And so what was really a way of the company saying, how do we keep our people here longer to make us more money, turned actually into, look how great we treat our people. What they did naturally, intentionally, unintentionally, they converted the thing they're doing to generate productivity into something that a candidate would go, oh, I want that. That sounds great.
But then they also make some classic whoppers of a mistake. Like, for example, when I was there, they decided that they were going to offer on-site daycare for parents to bring their kids to work and have an on-site daycare. This was an idea that backfired in a mega ultra way because, well, there were a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons was people already had a hard time getting to work through 45 minutes or an hour of driving. The last thing they wanted to do was put a child through that. And so it was like,
that's funny.
You want me to get my kid, my 4-year-old child, in a car seat and subject them to rush hour Bay Area traffic
or the
for
train.
an hour, or in order to have them come to a daycare.
So,
I'm dropping them off at a daycare that is the closest possible to my house. Thank you very much.
So the thing is that about that. So here's what's interesting about that. And I'm going to channel a little Rory Sutherland, which I like to do on occasion because the guy's insane and a genius. When they offer that as an option, it's really attractive. Oh, I could just like going to McDonald's or a fast food restaurant, suddenly they have screens like, oh, it's an option. I can use a screen. That's really nice. The problem is you can't present it as the new. You have to present it as an option. It's not suddenly everybody should bring their kid in. It should be like, look, should it happen that you want to bring your kid in, if the stars align, this is an option. But by presenting it as suddenly you don't have to pay for daycare because we're doing it for you. Yeah, then you get into, but hold on, let me tell you how this is wrong. But if you present it as an option,
that's where they did it. Yeah, they bragged.
And that is the problem. Presenting as an option is really interesting because that's a great option in the right circumstances.
But
exactly,
but not like we have this. You should use it. Yeah,
exactly.
What kind of content proves the ROI of this investment? Because whether or not you're using a $10, $40, $40,000 AI, or whether or not you're spending all this time to create focus groups, take the AI out of it. There's still what you are asking is an effort. So there's an effort, there's an investment. How do you prove what is the type of content that proves this ROI? No matter what.
I'm going to stay away from format because the truth is, if it's a video, exactly. It doesn't matter. If it's a haiku, it's a haiku. You win. The answer is, what is the thing you want someone to believe about you? Step one. And that is like 90% of the work right there. Because most people are like, well, I want people to know we're an attractive company. I want to be seen as a company of choice, whatever the hell that means. You've got to go deeper and say, what do you want people to see about you? You're innovative, you're smart, you're the most expensive one on the block. Like, if you think of any industry, there you apply the Gilligan's Island rules to it. In any industry, there is the expensive one, the Howells. There is the smart one, and I keep thinking, there is the smart one who's there's the professor. There is the everyday run-of-the-mill one, which is Gilligan. There is the cheap one. There is the pretty one. There's always the one. So what is the thing you are the one of? Get there, and you were like way ahead of the pack. And if you understand that, you might say, okay, to whom do I want to prove this idea? If I want to be seen as the one that offers the most status, and I want to offer it to someone who generally doesn't get status, like a QA engineer, for example, how would I connect that dot? How would I make a QA engineer feel like having worked here gives them status, both in the company and inside the industry? Well, I might say, you know what, at our company, we bring our QA team not to the end of the line, we bring them in the initial product and project and feature consideration conversation. They are part of the conversation at the very beginning of the idea, not the thing we threw over the fence and say, you figure it out. That has status amongst QA. So what's the piece of content? I don't know. but you are telling a story about, we know what we want people to think. We want, who wants to think about that, and we connect those dots. Can you tell that story 100 different ways? Yes.
Got it. So the content that proves it is the content that demonstrates that you are getting more people interested in thinking of you the way you want to be
Yes.
thought of.
Yes.
Okay, but
Ferrari does
that
not
could
want
be
everybody to look.
yeah.
Ferrari does not want everyone to buy a Ferrari. Ferrari would have zero interest. Ferrari will always want to be, I want to be the one that only one person can afford, because that is who Ferrari is. They are very elite. They are very expensive. They're doing that on purpose. They don't want to be a Honda or a Kia. They want to be not for the masses. They want to be the thing for the few, and everything they do speaks to that. So
beyond that, they want to be an emotional purchase. They don't want to be an intellectual. Nobody buys a Ferrari because it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Nobody buys a Ferrari because it's the best car. They buy a Ferrari because it feels like it's in your gut.
Because you can't make that happen unless people perceive you as being elite, because what they're saying is, in my gut, I want people to think of me as that way too. That is the story I want people to tell of me. And that's not the same conversation happening on Honda by any reach. And that's the thing. You got to know who you are and what you're trying to offer and what you want people to think about you. And then you can get into how you get them to believe that. Shally, in interest of time, because I know the time's going crazy, I do have to.
Late, yeah,
that's right. I gotta run out the door to take my kids someplace. No, please don't apologize, dude.
No.
You fired everybody who made that a problem, so they paid the price, bastards. Get out.
I only had one closing question for you, and I wanted to, as a closer, if you will, I want to go back to Alton Brown because I think he's freaking hilarious.
As do
I. What is the magic ingredient that using the Alton Brown his like realism of like, there's really not a magic, simple stuff makes great tasting food, and a lot of people put all this effort into the magic ingredient. What is the magic ingredient in TA and permanent employment branding that is actually just salt and pepper?
Yeah, the thing about Alton that I love is that he makes very complicated things very accessible. Suddenly you understand what gluten is. Suddenly you understand how salt permeates the membrane of a thing, and that is why I'm
magic, right?
Yeah, it's not magic. And once you understand, once you understand that idea, you can apply it to different foods in different ways. Once you understand the idea, it's on you to figure out how to use it. To me, the thing that I will always say, the most clear, easy, the salt and pepper, if you will, the thing you sprinkle on things to make it better is simply to say, if I know who this is for, I'm going to win. And when I think about intake meetings, I get to this is for. Yeah, if I think about intake meetings, it's about, how do I describe this job and let them figure it out? If I think about career sites, how do I describe my company and let them figure it out? But if I start with the idea of, there's a perfect hire, what do they care about? What do they think about? What are they looking for? What's their situation? Are they happy in their job? Why? Are they unhappy in their job? Why? What are we offering that changes their life? What are we offering that is different from other people? How would I present it in language that they would understand? Simply putting ourselves in their shoes for a hot minute. And by the way, there's lots of ways AI can help us do that. But simply by putting ourselves in those shoes for a minute and say, why on God's green earth would I, as a candidate, turn my Netflix off, stop scrolling my TikTok, and look at this piece of information? And if you can answer that question, you have perfectly seasoned
for that
whatever
candidate,
it is you're trying
not
to
for
do.
every,
that,
not for all candidates.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good way to wrap up. I would love to give people that are members access to your community for a discount or a trial or whatever. You're starting a new community, but what I'm going to do is let's talk about that offline. And folks, if you're watching this, he's got a community that he's starting to build.
Not really. I'm really trying to get in this idea of, I think we should all be embracing AI and we should be playing with it. I haven't kind of nailed down what that looks like, because I know that there are other communities and people are trying, but I want to make this for everybody. Let's talk about
that. And I'll make that accessible.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll do that offline. So anyways, for those that are interested, I'll follow up. It'll be in the recording inside the site. It sounds like the police finally found out where you were, so you better start running.
I know. I'm sorry. Call my lawyer.
I'm so sorry about the content mix-up and
stop it.
Stop it. But as I said, they're all
been
gone.
there.
Let's talk a little bit more about this, and hopefully we'll be able to do a part 2 this time without a
Love it.
hotel.
I would absolutely love
Awesome. Thanks so
that.
much.
Cool.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, Shally. Thanks, everybody.
Be kind to yourselves. See you next week. Bye-bye.